Hi guys, my name is Sinthu.
And my name is Kofi, and we work at the Grenfell Health and Wellbeing Service for children and young people.
We're here with you today to speak a bit about worry and when worry becomes a bit too much.
We're also going to be talking to you a bit about what you can do to help yourself cope with some of these worries, using some useful techniques, which we'll talk about more in this video.
Sounds good. So Kofi, why don't you start us off by saying a bit about what worry is?
Yeah, well, you see, Sinthu, worry is a completely normal feeling. Everyone gets it. Even celebrities such as Tyson Fury get it from time to time. Particularly now, during this current pandemic, when things are a little bit uncertain, we might find ourselves worrying a bit more than usual. And everyone may experience these worries in very different ways. So we might find ourselves worrying about different things throughout the day, which we may find might affect our concentration. And what's more is that also these worries tend to present themselves in different ways, such as different changes in the bodies of everyone. So for example, some people may find that they get that little feeling of butterflies in their tummy, whereas some people may find that they're sweating more or that their heart is pounding faster. And whereas some people may just find that they're feeling a lot more tired than usual. So as I said, worry can be different in everyone, but this doesn't take away the normality of it. It's completely normal and everyone gets it.
Sure. So it sounds like worry just comes across as different things to different people. So people experience it differently in terms of what they experience.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone gets it different, but it's normal.
Sounds good. Now, I also wanted to add that worry can actually be quite helpful, especially when we find ourselves in situations that might be quite scary or quite frightening. Our worry kicks in to enable us to sort of respond to the situation. So, for example, when we're worrying about coronavirus, we might want to wash our hands more often, or we might want to make sure that we maintain that social distancing. And this will help protect us from the virus and stop us from spreading the virus to other people.
Yeah. And one helpful way to think of worry could be to compare it to that of a bucket of water. So Sito, I don't know if you have like a bucket around you, if you
I
just
do
happen to.
have a
You do? Ah, fantastic, brilliant. So yeah, take this bucket of water, for example. So you can see it's full of water. So you know the water, as you keep filling it up, eventually it gets full and may start to overflow. Well, worry is a bit like that. So let's imagine this bottle is worry. As we keep adding worry to our bucket, eventually it might get to a point where it all overflows and it can feel a bit too much and we don't quite know what to do. Particularly in situations that we can't control, such as the current pandemic and all the changes that are happening to us because of the coronavirus.
That's good. So we spoke a bit about worry and what it is and how it looks like in different people. But how can we empty some of this water from this bucket?
Well, the good thing is that there are lots of things which we can do to help empty some of that water out of our bucket. In this case, manage our feelings of anxiety. And particularly with situations which we have no control over, as I mentioned before, such as the coronavirus pandemic. And these techniques are particularly useful because they can be done at home, which obviously being in isolation can be really useful.
And one technique that comes to my mind is something called grounding. A grounding can be especially helpful when we find ourselves worrying about things that have happened in the past, or when we find ourselves worrying about things that are going to happen in the future.
That sounds really interesting, Sinthu. I wonder if you could tell us a bit more about grounding, like what exactly it is, what it involves.
Sure, that's a really good question, Kofi. So grounding is a technique that we could use to help us move away from the thoughts that are making us feel bad. And we do this by bringing our concentration back to here and now. Because when we find ourselves worrying about things, we often find that our concentration is elsewhere. So we could ground ourselves using things that we find in the house, using our five senses, including our hearing, our sense of smell, our sense of taste, touch, and our sight, to really focus on the small details in the environment around us. And I was wondering, Kofi, if you could help me do a quick demonstration to show how we could do it at home.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad to. So just recap, I'm naming 5 things that I can see around me, yeah?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do, first of all.
Okay. So if I look around me, one of the first things I can see is my phone. So you can see the screen right here, and then a nice little black color at the back, very nice and like a charcoal black look. And then if I look around, I can also see my AirPods case. So again, it's kind of different color, very white, but very shiny. The third thing, if I look around, yep, I've got my iPad right here. So again, it's got like a black cover around it, but then when you open it up, it's got some white around the edges and then the screen as well. If I look at what I'm wearing, I also have this blue African shirt I'm wearing, which again has got a little African print on the front, so it adds a lot of style to it. And finally, I can see this white bottle of hand sanitizer around me. So I'm really engaging in the sights around my environment.
Sounds good. So after we name 5 objects that we could see, we name out loud 4 things that we could feel. So look around the space, the room that you're in, and just pick up anything that you could find. If you can't find anything, you might want to go to the kitchen to grab some sort of grains or beans to really feel the textures and describe some of the things that you could feel in your hand. So in here, I have a bowl of rice, and I can feel the grains in my fingertips. I also have some clay in front of me, so I can really sort of stretch it. I feel the stretch within my sort of hands. I also have this book in front of me, so I could flick some of the pages and really feel the roughness of the pages on my fingertips. And I also have this scrunchie, which is elastic, and I could feel the spring as I pull it apart.
Cool. And from there, we move on to 3 things we can hear, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So the first thing that comes to my mind, obviously, is Sinthu, I can hear you through the speaker of my AirPods. I can also hear my parents in the opposite room watching TV, listening to the news right now. And then finally, I can also hear just a motorcycle just zooming past my street right now. So again, compared to L2, got a really loud sound to it.
Sounds good. And if you can't hear many things in the surroundings, you might want to turn on some music or turn on a TV so you could really sort of tune into the sounds coming from those items. After this, you then name 2 things that you could smell. So just look around your space to see what you could pick up. And in front of me, I have a lavender candle, which smells very fragrant and quite sweet. I can also see, what else can I see? I could also, I see this coffee cup from the morning coffee I had, which I need to wash, but I can smell the sort of bittersweet coffee from my remains from this morning. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so with that, you're really trying to engage like your sense of smell, like really engage in the scent of what it is you're smelling, right? To help to take our thoughts away from some of the worries.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't find anything around you, you might want to sort of cut up a fresh piece of ginger or lemon, some onions if you're brave, and just sort of really smell that.
That sounds interesting. And I think that's particularly interesting because that sort of brings us on to the last thing, which is to do with taste. So if I look around me, I have this apple right here, scrunched up in my tissue. So if I'm just to take a little bite out of that. So it's got a really nice, sweet, fruity taste to it. Very flavorful. So this is really nice. But if you find that you haven't got anything to taste, then it might be helpful to either pop a snack or a piece of gum or a sweet in the mouth, just so you can really have some taste and really get the flavor from something. And when worried or stressed, it might be helpful to focus on foods that have a really strong flavor, such as that of a lemon or ginger, which Sinthu just mentioned not so long ago, because this can really help distract our attention away from worrying thoughts and really make sure we're engaging in the flavor of what we're tasting.
Sounds good. And this brings our grounding technique to an end. So we quickly demonstrated to you how you can use your 5 senses to really focus on the small details in the environment around you. And it's important to note that this technique can be really helpful when we find ourselves worrying about something that has happened in the past or worrying about the future. So this is something that you guys could try at home. Other things that people have found helpful to distract themselves from worries include calling a friend or family member, drinking a hot cup of tea, having a shower, meditation, praying, going for a walk. These things can also help people distract themselves from worries.
Oh, some useful ideas there. And as you were just saying that, actually, Sinthu, one other technique just came to my mind, and that's to do with our breathing. Now, breathing is very important, particularly when it comes to relaxation. So Sinthu and everyone watching, I just want you to think back to that time, maybe when you were worried or scared or stressed. You might have noticed yourself taking really quick, shallow breaths, which maybe made you feel out of breath quite quickly. Well, the thing is, by controlling our breathing, it allows us to take longer breaths, which can help us to relax. And one technique in particular, which can be really helpful for this, is called the 4-4-6 breathing technique, which, Sinthu, if you wouldn't mind demonstrating for us while I read out the instructions to you.
Sure, sounds good. Tell me what to do.
Yep, cool. So the first thing I want you to do is take both of your hands and just place them below your ribcage on your stomach. Like that, yep. And then next, I want you to take 4 seconds to slowly breathe in through your nose as you really begin to feel the air come in and you feel your stomach and ribcage expand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I just want you to hold that breath at the top for another 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then finally, I want you to breathe out slowly for 6 seconds, making sure you really release all of the air and the tension as you start to feel your stomach and ribcage come down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's as simple as that. So this technique can be particularly useful after a stressful situation, such as if we've had an argument with a loved one, either at home or over the phone. And if you find that maybe as you're doing this, you're finding it difficult to count, then it might be useful to focus on a nearby object, such as a clock or a TV. This can really help you focus and engage in the exercise.
Thanks, Kofi. That was really helpful. And I think it's also important to add that this current situation might be bringing up difficult memories for a lot of people, a lot of worries. For example, some people might be thinking about things that have happened in the past, such as a Grenfell fire. And when you have these worries come into your mind, it might be helpful to first of all think and focus on your breathing to see whether it's quite fast and shallow. And if it is quite fast and shallow, you might want to do the breathing technique first. But if you find yourself having these memories of the past and they keep popping up into your mind and you can't get rid of them, it might be a good idea to first of all do the grounding technique to bring your attention back to the here and now before you try the breathing technique.
And you may find that when you start practicing these techniques for the first time, you might not quite getting it and maybe you feel like you're not doing it right. But that's okay. Just like with everything in life, it's all about practice. So just think back to that time when you were learning to ride a bike, or you were learning a new language, or even when you were learning to play football or learning a new dance. You only became good at these things with practice. And the same applies here. We're not experts overnight, and the more we practice, the better we'll become at this. Remember, practice always makes perfect. It may be useful to start practicing these techniques at a time maybe when you're not feeling so worried or stressed, because that way when you are, you'll have these techniques easy and quickly at hand, ready to use.
That's good, Kofi. I think it's also important to add that when we're feeling really overwhelmed about things, it might be helpful to reach out to like a friend or family member to support us. So we might want to think in advance about those people that we trust and feel safe around to see whether they can support us to practice some of these techniques, such as grounding or breathing. So it's always helpful to know that you have a support system or a circle of people that you can reach out to when you do find yourself in situations where you feel quite worried.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Sinthu. So I think that just about brings us to the end of this discussion. So I wonder if it would just be helpful just to briefly recap to our audience everything we've spoken about today.
Yeah, sounds good. So at the start, we spoke a bit about worry and how worry might look like in different people. We also did some 2 techniques that you could try at home to help manage some of these worries and empty some of the water from this worry bucket, including the grounding technique using our 5 senses to really refocus our concentration onto the here and now. And we also tried the breathing technique, the 4-4-6 breathing, where we can control our breathing to bring ourselves back to a place of calm.
Yeah. We may find that there are some days where that bucket that we spoke about, it may overflow, but that's okay. Remember that we are human at the end of the day. If this happens and you feel like some of these techniques that we discussed aren't working, and you just feel like maybe you need someone else to talk to, then that's perfectly fine too. We're here to support you during this time as well. So So our numbers are here on the slide. You can get in touch with us during the following days of the week at the following times. We also accept emails at this time, so feel free to use this service as well. Again, we're here for your support, and we want to be able to help you and look after you as well as best as we can during this tough time.
That's good, Kofi. And also I thought just to say that if you're unsure about what support services there are available to you, just give us a call. We're happy to help and speak you through some things that we could support you with. Or if you just want to call to have a chat, we're here for you here there too. So do give us a ring. But yeah, it brings us to an end now. So thank you for listening to us today. We hope that you found it helpful.
We encourage you to leave any feedback, comments, or questions you have after this. Our service have also kindly put together some other videos which you may find useful. These can be found online on our website.
That's good. Bye for now.
Bye for now.